Cheers, guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Pancast. Unfortunately, toasting just with a little bit of black coffee this morning, trying to get up and get an early start on the week. In the Pancast, we are going to unbox some new cookware. We're going to talk about steak. We're going to talk about carbon steel. I'm going to talk a little bit about paella and more. Okay, first thing I want to do is unbox this guy. This is a Strata 3-ply carbon steel skillet. So it's got stainless steel on the outside and an aluminum core and then a carbon steel cooking surface. Kind of an interesting idea there. And the theory behind these pans is that they will be lighter and perhaps easier to use and maneuver than traditional carbon steel. Jed over at Cook Culture kind of got me interested in these pans. The Strata company is a Kickstarter company. So they raise money and develop these pans. And what I have here is one of the full production models. Now, early on, I got in touch with Strata and they allowed me to buy a pre-production model. And it turns out I was the first person to ever buy a Strata pan. It says right here, congrats, you are our first sale. Around here I have a policy, and actually I never did the unboxing and cooking in this video. Just had a new baby, there's been a lot going on, so I should have gotten to that a little bit earlier. But I have a policy, I don't take free cookware to appear in review videos. They actually sent me a pan, and what I'm going to do here is make a little bit of a nuance, not really an exception. I bought one pan and I have not used it, and they made some changes to that pre-production model, and this is the actual production model, and they sent me this as a replacement for the one that I purchased. So it may not be important to other people, but I do like to keep my review purity intact. So I bought one pan, I'm going to use one pan. Here it is. The Strata 3-ply carbon steel lined frying pan. And from the initial pickup here, it is definitely lighter than a traditional carbon steel skillet. Strata, first edition, 10-inch, 3-ply carbon clad. It feels sturdy. One thing I note, these are made in China. Traditionally around here, I'm a little bit of a fuddy-duddy and I don't review as much Chinese-made cookware as I do the French-made and some of the American-made stuff. Going to be interested to do a little cooking in this guy. Let's check that weight. I have a traditional carbon steel skillet here. This is a baking steel made by Debouille. 10 1/4 inch pan, right at 4 pounds. Let's check the Strata. And just a skosh over 2 pounds. So pretty much half the weight for the Strata pan versus the traditional carbon steel. It's actually noticeable. This is a very lightweight seeming pan. Not done any cooking in it yet. I have not seasoned it yet. That will be coming up, and we'll see how it cooks. Now, I give full credit here. Jed over at Cook Culture has been way ahead of me on these Strata carbon steels. He's had one for a couple of months, and I noticed when he did his initial seasoning, I think he did the oven seasoning method, and his first egg might have stuck just a little bit. I'm going to try what Jed calls my one and done. I prefer to think of it really as one and get started cooking. I'll try seasoning this guy one time on the stovetop and see if we can get our first egg to slide. And if so, we'll give Jed just a little bit of grief. Now let's unbox this big guy here. And I am hoping that this thing is just overpacked, because if not, my wife is going to be really on me about the size of this cookware. And here it is. This is the Machika or Machika, probably not pronouncing that correctly, manufactured by Garcima, 22-inch enameled Valencian paella pan. Paella season in full swing around here. I like interspersing a paella on Sundays. It kind of breaks up the barbecue and the smoked pork butt and the ribs. Kind of intersperse a paella every now and then, and it's a great thing to make on the back deck. On a Sunday, you got family running around and kids playing, and paella is kind of an event for a group. Now, you've probably seen me use that 20-inch paella pan and burner set, the Garcima Tabarca set. It's been in several videos. They say it online that burner will fit up to a 22-inch. So I wanted to try the 22-inch. And this one is also enameled. So I've got the carbon steels, and I like those, and the stainless steel works well. And now I'm gonna try the enameled. It should be a little less maintenance, and this is actually a little bit less cost than the stainless steel. So this may be a good middle ground between the carbon steel and the stainless steel. Now when you make paella, especially as an American, you have to be very careful, especially if you post anything online about paella, because the paella police will be on you instantaneously. The other day, I put up a short video called "What is Gringo Paella?" And I kind of made up a little term, and I thought it was funny. And essentially what Gringo Paella is when an American or someone outside of Spain tries to make paella, we try to be respectful of traditional Spanish and Valencian paella culture and do the best we can. Sometimes we can't get the correct ingredients, so we just go forth being respectful, but doing the best we can with the ingredients we have. And it turned out that people from Valencia, within a matter of hours after me posting that video, the paella police, they've approved of me. So Tiago Durante says my term was approved. Let's see, Benito from Valencia in Spain, and I had to run this through Google Translate. He says that one problem that people have outside of Spain is the water they use for the rice and the paella. He says their water has certain minerals and particulates in it that gives the paella a little bit of flavor. He says the gringo thing made him laugh. He said in Spain, they don't call Americans gringos. That's mostly a Latin American term. I actually knew that, and I thought it was actually kind of funny, like on a secondary level, if you can't find the right ingredients for paella. With Gringo Paella, you can't even find the right Spanish word for that. He says lots of times the Spanish will call Americans Yankees. So it could also be a Yankee paella. So Yankee paella might work, especially if you're outside of the U.S. and calling someone from America a Yankee or a Yank. That kind of works. Me, I'm from Alabama, and I couldn't give two rips about the Civil War, but to us, Yankees are people from the Northeast. So someone from California would not be a Yankee. Someone from Georgia or Mississippi or Florida would not be a Yankee. Someone from Massachusetts or New York or anywhere up around there, those would be Yankees. Let's see, John Wild 164 writes in with a sort of philosophical type question. Why buy carbon steel pans rather than stainless steel or cast iron? For me, it's not one out of the three, it's all three. We've talked about the 3-pan strategy around here. And if I were just starting out picking my first pan, I would definitely go with stainless steel first. It's more versatile, the cleanup is easier, there's no seasoning. You can reduce pan sauces, acidic pan sauces with wine, etc., and not worry about any type of seasoning. You can reduce tomato sauces, so definitely cook acidic ingredients in there. After that though, then I would add, and you can reverse this here, for my second and third pans, a cast iron and a carbon steel. I think cast iron has a lot of advantages when it comes to things like cornbread. In a hot oven, making a crust on cornbread, it is tough to beat cast iron. It's also great for frying, and with the more vertical sides on most cast iron, for kind of shallow frying, like some fried chicken or fried chicken tenders, I think it does a fantastic job there. For me, the carbon steel, I like the carbon steel best for eggs. If I have a good carbon steel and it's seasoned correctly and I cook at the proper temperature, for me, it's every bit as nonstick as a Teflon, and I don't have to worry about any nonstick chemicals getting into my food. So I think it's the best for eggs. I can get nonstick eggs in stainless steel and cast iron. It's just not as easy for me. I also like carbon steel the best for steaks. You can get them just searing hot, thick carbon steel on a stovetop and just sear the heck out of the steak. Get a great crust on a steak. You can take the pan to the oven. I really like it for that. And I also think it's a little bit easier getting spatulas or turners or tongs in the carbon steels with the more angled sides. So for me, I like to have at least one of each, if not 5 or 10. Let's see, we talked about cooking steaks. And I did a video on cooking a steak at room temperature, just starting it cold in a carbon steel skillet. And it turned out okay. And the Rob K. Will wrote in and asked if that is now my preferred method for cooking steak. It is not. I am still a high temp sear guy. What I do on my steaks is just take them out of the fridge, let them come up to room temperature for an hour or so. And I salt and pepper mine at the last minute. And then I do a high temp sear, about 2 minutes aside, and then about 3 minutes, finish them off in the oven, and then let them rest 3-4 minutes. And start to finish, in about 10 minutes, I've got a deliciously cooked steak, just the way I like it, on the plate. That is my preferred method. I got a brother-in-law and a father-in-law. They prefer the reverse sear method. So they will kind of get steaks up to, I think it's around 135, 140, and kind of season them or marinate them, and then put them on very hot coals for a couple minutes and kind of get that sear at the last minute. Those are absolutely delicious. That works well. It's just too much work and in-depth prep for me. I don't like sous vide. I've never messed with sous vide. It doesn't interest me. But that starting a steak in a cold pan, it works okay. I think it's okay. I don't think it's the best though. Falk copper pans. I mentioned that we've added Falk as an affiliate around here. Yesterday used my Falk 32 centimeter, 12.6 inch, whatever 0.6 of an inch is, copper. And I'm just noting here, as far as capacity, it holds 2 full 1 pound cubes of supermarket beef. Browned those up for some tacos and it did really well. So check out the Falk links if you're in the market for a good copper pan. Let's see, Gary Hammond 3117 says, did you review that Chef's Choice electric knife sharpener in the background of your last Pancast? That was inadvertent product placement. I had a bunch of knife stuff out. I'm gonna do a knife sharpening video, but no, I have not reviewed that. I've had that Chef's Choice for almost a decade now and it's worked really well. I think America's Test Kitchen recommended that back in the day. And what I've come to realize though with knife sharpeners, you start getting into knives, you need different ones for different knife angles. So we'll get into a little bit more about knife sharpeners in an upcoming video. Let's see, Anders Stengarden Jensen, probably a Nordic name there, I would have to say, wrote in and asked and said, I think there should be commentary on how soon one should expect to have to season their carbon steel again. Once you get that initial seasoning on there, when do you need to re-season your pan? The easy answer here is when it needs it. So if you look at your seasoning, if it looks like bare metal, if you get hot water on there and wash it, if you get any sort of whiff of metal scent, or you cook something acidic, something with wine or vinegar and strip some seasoning off, that's when you re-season your pan. So if you look at your pan and the seasoning looks fine, don't worry about it. If it needs to be re-seasoned, then re-season it, as simple as that may sound. Jonathan Hill, 8337 says, Scott, have you tried algae cooking oil? He says he'd like to see me try it for seasoning and everyday cooking. I don't know about algae cooking oil. I am very happy with extra virgin olive oil for most of my cooking and peanut or veggie or canola for my seasoning. Let's see, JW77019 writes in about the gas stove ban. He says no one is interested in banning gas stoves. except for Fox when they need something to talk about to inflame people. Respectfully here, and I'm not trying to inflame anyone, I think they are absolutely doing everything they can behind the scenes to ban gas stoves, and I respectfully disagree with JW there. Dark Matter, and Matter spelled with a 3 instead of an E, says, Uncle Scott, how do I get a blue hue to my carbon steel pan? I think what he's talking about there is bluing metal. And if you get carbon steel hot enough, and according to the internet, 600 degrees higher and higher, you can turn it into blued steel. I've never actually done this, and if anybody tries it, let me know how it goes, but be double extra careful there. 600 degrees, things can go wrong. That is very, very hot, and you don't want to start a fire. Let's see, Jay Stones, 9872 asks, Scott, what size Mineral B Pro do you recommend for French omelet making? And he's talking here about Debouille Mineral B Pros. I've got 2 Debouille omelet pans here. This is actually the regular series 9.5-inch French omelet pan. This is my favorite pan in the whole world. I've also got the 11-inch, and it works well as well. It depends on the size omelets that you like. If you do 2 fried eggs, 2 scrambled eggs, 2 egg omelets, cooking for one person or so, I think the 9.5 is a fantastic way to go. If you like bigger omelets, my skills kind of top out at 3 egg omelets. Of course, you can do bigger ones, but for 3 egg omelets or so, I think the 11-inch is a really good size there. Now, if you guys remember from the last Pancast, this Pancast was supposed to be an interview with Andres Logston from Baking Steel. It's my fault. I had to write him and ask him to delay that interview for a week. Why? COVID. COVID is still going around. It's apparently back. About 8 days ago, my little 6-year-old son, it's 103 degrees outside, and he came up to me and said, Dad, I'm getting cold. I'm cold. That didn't sound right. He came down with a fever. A couple days later, my wife came down with a fever, had flu-like symptoms. She tested, and it was COVID. And then 2-3 days after that, my beautiful little innocent 2-month-old Mabel here, she got a fever. And I'd just like to give a big FU to the bioweapons gain of function research people for infecting my little bitty daughter with your bioweapon, but she has pulled through. Fever is gone, back to normal, and somehow I didn't get it this time, but I was having to get up every hour around the clock and take her temperature and make sure everything's okay, and I just couldn't do a good interview. So apologies to Andres, and he will be on later this week or next week. We'll get it done. So if there's anything you want to know about baking steel or being an entrepreneur in the cookware industry, or just questions about life in general for Andres, he's still got a couple of days to get more questions in. Put those in the comments section below. Okay, get your questions in for Andres. Check out those shopping links for Falk and Debouille and other great products below. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Pancast.